Do you know how to build systems for your business? Does this even make any sense to you? The word systems to most people doesn't mean anything when it comes to business. When they think systems, what they think is what they've been programmed by marketers to think about, which is the software they should be spending money on to have systems in your business, to build automations, a business that is passive and runs itself. When I talk about systems, I would say that that is about 1% of the time the type of solutions I'm talking about. Most of the time talking about systems, I'm talking about something totally separate. And in this video, I'll explain what a system is, how they work, and why they're so important. In a previous video, I talked about the 8 essential skills an entrepreneur has to have to be successful in business. We're on skill number 6 right now, which is systems. So when I talk about a system, what I'm really talking about is a specific, clear way that you do something in your business every single time. So typically when we first start a business, every interaction is essentially improv. It's free form, it's impromptu. We're creating as we go, figuring it out, thinking on our feet. We greet this customer this way, we price this service this way, we try to deliver on it in this way. The next time we make some changes, it's all free form. At that time, there aren't many systems in place. We're kind of creating as we go. Now, as we do that over and over, though, we should start to see some patterns of when I greet a customer in this range of ways, things go well. When I do it this way, they don't trust me, they're on edge, it doesn't go very well, so I shouldn't do that anymore. I should only greet them in this range of ways. We kind of pick up these rules of thumb. But the problem is that these aren't explicitly stated. They're sort of in our head just because we've been sort of reinforced. Almost like a dog that's trained, sit and given a treat, we've been rewarded, so we don't really think about how we got rewarded and what happened in the backside. So why does this matter? I mean, if we have the knowledge, doesn't it matter that our instincts are right and we can move forward? Well, yes and no. That works until it doesn't. So there are 2 key reasons to have clearer systems. One is if it's just you in your business, by being clear on the exact steps that you're taking, you can all of a sudden take every interaction out of this creating it as you go in the real world and put it instead into the system to follow. So if you look at most sports, let's say basketball, for example, they're running very specific plays. So you have an inbound play underneath the basket. You have one of a series of plays. The entire team has practiced it. The steps are very clear. You're going to go from here. You're going to set a pick for this guy. This guy's going to cut this way. This person's going to break out that way. There's a very clear setup procedure for what to do. And that is the case because they know that that exact situation is going to happen a number of times every single game. That's why we have clear systems in our business. It's because we know we're going to have this exact same thing happen over and over and over again. So why create it fresh each time if we already have a roadmap of what's worked? That's one reason when it's just us. Whenever you do that, you get to free up a lot of the energy and brain power to think on the spot and just let it be more of an automation that you run through. That frees up your brain power for more things like strategic planning or other parts of those 8 entrepreneurial skills. The second thing is when you go to hire employees. So if you don't have explicitly written out systems, whenever you hire somebody, how do you teach them exactly what you want done? Whenever they don't do a thing how you want it, how do you address which step they got off on? It's impossible. I talk to so many owners who are waiting to hire the talent that comes through, the person who already knows everything without being told that by the owner. Well, I have yet to see that unicorn ever actually manifest, unfortunately. And if someone came in that actually had all that talent already, that already knew how to do the sales so perfectly, you didn't have to teach them how, could you actually afford to hire and pay them? They could probably get a job anywhere they wanted to. Could your company actually hire them? The answer is probably no. So the alternative is to have very clear systems on how you do everything so it becomes paint by numbers. Now you don't have to have the special, unique, perfectly talented person come in. You can take an employee who is interested, who cares enough to learn, who has at least a minimum amount of focus and thinking power, and help run them through these systems so that their job is very black and white. It's paint by numbers. They don't have to come in just and paint a masterpiece. It's paint by numbers. But to have it be paint by numbers, there's first someone who has to create the paint by numbers system to say, this little block is 1. You're going to paint these red. This is green. This can paint this with the 2 is going to denote the green happens. Someone has to do that groundwork. And as the owner, that person is you. Unfortunately, that takes quite a bit of time. So either you can wait around for the perfect person to come in and know everything already, or you can take matters into your own hands and take the knowledge in your head, write out clear systems that you can train other people on, use yourself to streamline your business. One big obstacle to this for most people is they don't know how to do it. So I'm going to tell you a few different ways systems tend to be recorded, and then also one other obstacle that pops up for a lot of people. So systems can be in a numbered list. Step 1 is this, step 2 is this, step 3 is this. You can think about furniture that you build. You follow the instructions. Now, the better the system, the more foolproof it is. There's nothing worse than you're trying to build a dresser and you're unclear if step 2 means you should be doing this or that. So part of your job in systems is to make them as clear and foolproof as possible. So steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is one way of recording a system. Another is a sort of a flow chart, which you're sort of saying step 1 and you're drawing it out more graphically as opposed to a numbered list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're drawing like a circle 1, which is this kind of big macro step of, reach out to customer. And then step 2, you might have the next biggest step. Typically, whenever I record a system in this way, each of those macro steps will then refer off to more of a list and a series of individualized steps. But that way you can visualize the macro system all in one single view. The next way to record a system can be a decision tree. And so that might look like reached out to the customer. Did they, agree to the next phone call? Yes, do this. Was the answer no? Great, do this instead. And you can kind of have branches that way to denote what happens. So those are 3 different ways to create systems. One with a numbered list, steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next is a flow chart showing the bigger macro steps. And then number 3 would be a decision tree where you have to kind of pick out where to branch going down and make different judgment calls. With all those in mind, you should be able to draft successful systems for your business if you understand how. This can be really hard to do. I always say the analogy, it's like asking Michael Jordan how to shoot a flying jumper. He does it so naturally and instinctively that it's hard for him to stop and explain it on its most basic level. He takes so many truths for granted, it might be hard for him to explain. It's probably the same for you. You probably answer the phone and deal with a customer in a certain way, but it can be hard for you to get that out of your head and onto paper in a way you can actually tell somebody else. So usually we do training by osmosis instead, which is I'm going to do my work, you sit here and listen to me, and then we see what you can learn from that process. That's better than nothing, but it's much better to actually have it written out what the steps are, what is making you choose this or that, why you're choosing those steps. I found it really invaluable to have a second person that's not yourself help you write the systems out. It is almost impossible for many people to try to get that out of their own head, but someone else asking questions about, well, what happens here? And then why didn't you do that? Allows you to draft that system fully. So systemizing your business is the first step to beginning to scale it. I'm not talking about systemizing as in automations. I'm talking about systemizing as in just writing out what it is you're even doing on a day-to-day basis. You can find so much efficiency here and save so much time. This is also how you start to take the business that's this jumbled mess and start to see the bigger machine in your head so you can know which areas to tweak and to adjust overall. So I hope this helps you understand what I mean when I'm saying systems and why they're so important in a business, especially if you're looking to grow and become more efficient or larger with more and more employees. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.